Welcome to the Joyful Mud Puddles podcast, support you can count on in your parenting journey. Today, I am so excited to have Kim John Payne with me today on the podcast. Kim John Payne has been quietly and passionately working to help tens of thousands of people give voice to the feeling that something is not okay with the new normal of overwhelm that so many people are now experiencing. He offers doable ways to realize the hopes and values we all have for ourselves and build deep connections with our children that gives family resiliency and simple joy. Kim has worked for with many years of experience as a counselor, an educator, and a consultant on projects all over the world. Simplicity parenting coaches are now being trained worldwide. In addition to authoring the #1 best-selling Simplicity parenting book, he has also authored several other books, of which including The Soul of Discipline and Being at Your Best When Your Kids are at their worst. Kim strives to deepen understanding and give practical tools for life that arise out of the burning social issues of our time. He also lives on a farm in Massachusetts with his wife and 2 children. Welcome, Kim, and thank you so much for being with us today. There are so many things I'd love to chat about.
Well, thank you for that. And thanks for that introduction, Megan. It's always lovely to hear one's obituary before one dies. It's lovely, yes. But thank you.
So for those who are not as familiar with Simplicity parenting, what are the main pillars that surround what you do?
Well, the 4 main pillars essentially are pillars or pathways that over the years have emerged. Haven't invented them really, just worked with countless numbers of parents and how to simplify one's life is essentially 4 pathways, and then there's a 5th actually, which has emerged more lately. But the first one is to declutter and simplify the home environment. The second main pillar is to simplify and strengthen rhythms and predictability. And the third is to be very careful about scheduling and overscheduling. The 4th is filtering out adult information, actually, and being more careful with that. And then the 5th, which is in the new edition of Simplicity Parenting, a new 2nd edition is coming out. And I had to, think hard and work and research for the last year or so. And it seemed to me that there was a whole 5th pathway that was emerging. And that's clarifying and simplifying family values and parental leadership, actually, in the family. So that's a new chapter in the book, in the new edition of the book.
Oh, I can't wait to read about that, because that really is starting to emerge, and I love that you're doing the research on that, because not every family has that leadership or defining their goals, which leads into one of the first questions that someone was asking me to ask you when I spoke with you. They were wondering, what do you do when one parent is sold on the Simplicity parenting philosophy, but the other isn't? And kids can pick up on inconsistencies between guardians if they're not on the same page. So how do you find that, rhythm for your family? Is it even possible if you're not both on the same page there?
Well, I think one of the aspects of simplifying and balancing and just bringing more calm to a home is to have more stress come because you're fighting with a partner. I mean, I hope the irony of that would be lost on no one. I mean, that's not going to help kids all that much. But what a lot of parents have commented over the years, and a lot of comments are coming up on this now during a fairly intense time that we're having. And I speak to them weekly. Actually, I have a still, after all these years, still have a private parent coaching counseling practice. And I hear about this a lot from parents all around the world. What happens if one parent wants to simplify and the other is high velocity, much more in the fast lane, and one parent wants to pull over into the slower lane, still moving forward, but the slower lane, the less dangerous lane, the less hectic lane, and another parent is really speeding. And the answer to that really, and this is part of the aspect of simplicity parenting, which so many people have commented on, is that you find the small doable change. You just basically dial it back, dial it back, dial it back until you can find one thing that you and your partner agree on, and then build from there. So it might be that you and your partner agree just to say thank you to the farmers before a meal. It might be that you and your partner have to agree that there is such a thing as a meal, right? A family meal. It might be that you and your partner can agree on a bedtime story each night. It might be, and there's very, very simple, small little things. I remember one mum, and I detailed this in the original writing of the book, is that she had it's just a very engaged, lovely husband, and but he loved to do very spectacularly big, loud, noisy. He liked to go to monster truck car rallies, and so she could see that jazzed the kids up. It didn't, it took them days to calm down after it. And she said, well, why don't we do this for every very stimulating day, which jazzes the kids up? What about we have a calming day? And she used to mark them on the calendar. So there'd be a stimulating day with an S, and sometimes there'd be two S's. And then there would be two C's, and she'd have two calming days, two stimulating days, two calming days, one and one. Sometimes she would have C and S in one day, and that meant balanced. That was the balanced day. So she wasn't trying to necessarily rein her partner in completely. She was just saying, in the balance of the week, let's have balance for our kids. What usually happens is that if you can find a foothold on simplifying, and this doesn't mean moving to, Mongolia. Actually, I was there last year. Don't bother. It's just the same issues. It's the same, right? But if you can usually find just a foothold on change, and then you build out from there, the kids calm down, disciplines is much easier, connections are better, life flows along a whole bunch better. For example, again, this was a mum, but a mum was commenting that she wanted to simplify stuff and declutter, and the child's bedroom was just like a tsunami had hit it. But the father was a bit of a pack rat and collected things, and the house was packed to the ceiling with stuff, and the garage and everywhere was packed. So she cleaned out her own little room. She had a little sort of study and a tiny little room, and she cleaned it out. And the child loved being there because it was so nice, and the mum would gravitate there. So then the child actually asked if they could make their room all cozy and peaceful, and so quote unquote. And so they did that. And then one day the mother caught the father in there, just sitting there reading. And she said, what are you doing? And he said, well, and just, with a guilty smile, this is a really nice place to be. And she then, bless her, didn't say, well, you should. She just said, well, let's just see if we can make the lounge room. And she expanded out the decluttering. Now that's just one of the 4 or 5 pathways, but that's a couple of examples.
That is so helpful. I love that you mentioned just find one small thing that you and your partner can agree on, and start there. Just find a starting place, and that just makes it so much more manageable. So my next question would be, what advice do you have for a parent who's tried to simplify as best as they can? They're trying to do all the right things, but they have a very strong-willed child that really does not want to cooperate, or schoolwork is becoming a problem these days. What advice would you have for those parents?
That's a huge question.
The
Uh,
mini answer, I guess.
yeah, a lot of that help. If someone wanted to take a deeper dive into this, and I don't mean to be self-referential, but you'd take a dive into the Simplicity Parenting Companion book, and that's called The Soul of Discipline. That's just full of ways in which you can help. In fact, there's a whole section on the difference between a genuine strong will and willfulness. There's
Okay.
because sometimes those two things are different. It depends on the age of the child, depends on the situation. One thing that can help a lot in terms of as the simplicity frame that we're talking about today is that when you simplify things, when you declutter, particularly when you bring rhythm and predictability, so a child knows what's coming next. And so as they navigate through the day, now again, I don't know how old the child is that we're talking about, but the younger the child, usually the more dramatic the effect. It really can be quite amazing how their behavior eases, because when a child is not overwhelmed, when a child in a sense, the way I think of it is, the metaphor is that our children are like, they're like little vessels for life. Life is pouring into their vessel, and it's like that vessel is underneath a tap, and that tap is pouring into their little self. All the things that they do, all the the activities they do, the friends, the extended family, just the things, things of life, and that's pouring into their cup. Now, if too much is pouring into their cup, that cup fills and fills and fills and never gets to provide that kind of hydration that a child needs. It's filling and filling and filling, and then it starts overflowing. And that overflow is what we call behavior. That overflow is what we call discipline issues. And we've got a choice. We can either turn down the tap or spend our life mopping up. And so by turning down the tap, a very strong-willed child is sometimes when families, because I hear this regularly, day in, day out. I got a very strong-willed child, and indeed a parent has, no question, and the world is going to need strong-willed children. Like, hooray, good. But they need that will needs to be directed, and by turning down the tap, that will starts to calm down a little bit and can be directed a little bit more, well, a lot more. When a child's not overwhelmed with too much scheduling, too much life, too much adult information. Screens are a huge thing. When parents go low or no screen, particularly the parents that go no screen in their homes for children, notice a remarkable difference in children's behavior. That's a big theme, but one that so many parents have commented on. If any parent is genuinely concerned about their children's behavior, my advice is just to do a month brain reset and just no screens, just cut them all out and let the brain reset. Been a lot of research into that, and I detail that actually in that new edition, Megan, that I was talking about earlier. When a child basically is not in amygdala hijack, the reptilian ancient fight or flight, freeze or flock brain, which has become the new normal. The children are in that, and you look around the neighborhood and the other kids are sort of like it as well. When you allow a child to not have the reptile lizard brain, like the lizard king wearing a crown, you know, where the reptilian brain is running the show, and a child fights back, is difficult, pushes back, falls back, is stubborn, um, is often pushing back. No, I don't want to. Why should I? That's a real sign that one of the things, one of the first places I go to with parents in my practice is to simplify and balance. Now, a lot of parents say, but they came out of the birth canal rolling up their sleeves. You know, they came out willful. And I get it. I have a daughter like this too. I totally get it. And by simplifying and balancing, these kids' lives are more affected than most when they know what's coming next, when they don't live in clutter, when they're not overscheduled, when they don't get too much adult information. And here's the thing, these kids really need adult leadership, parental. We often hear, you know, I hear this a lot. We have a child-centered home. And I get that. I mean, that's said by very well-meaning, deeply caring parents. We have a child-centered home. But to be honest, Megan, I don't believe in child-centered homes. I really do not. It's too much responsibility to put on a child's shoulders. What I believe in is value-centered homes, not child-centered. And out of the values of a home, very strong-willed children often need the structure, because their will is like, in the Soul of Discipline book, I call it pinging. When mariners are lost at sea, or they just need to get their bearings, they'll send out a sonic ping, and it'll bounce off something and hit back, and then another ping, and it'll bounce, and they get their bearings, right? Which is, we have that saying for our emotional life too. We get our bearings. When our children are misbehaving, so-called misbehaving, they're pinging. They're trying. I write about this in the Simplicity Parenting, no, in the Soul Discipline book, is that there's no such thing as a disobedient child. I've never met a disobedient child. And I've been a school counselor. I've met some right little rotters, I can tell you, you know, but I've never met a disobedient child. I've only ever met a disoriented one. And I don't mean that just to be semantics. It's disorientation. Now, when you have a very, very strong-willed child, they're almost continually pinging. They're just echolocating you with their behavior. And in that way, when things are not rushed, when things are simpler, and when things are clearer in terms of family values, that child can direct their will to where it needs to be directed much, much more. So that's even a brief answer to that question, because that is a very, very multi-layered and usually highly individual question, because the person who wrote that question in would probably have 3 or 4 follow-up questions right now, you know? Yeah.
Everything you said makes so much sense, because I've been struggling with one of my boys who's a little more challenging than the others, and schoolwork for us was just really becoming a big battle. But when we made a plan that we both agreed on and put it on the fridge, suddenly there's been way less fighting, because he goes to the fridge, he knows what's there, it's predictable, it's there, there's the schedule, this is what I need to do each day of the week. And it just cut out so much of the extra unknowns that we were arguing over. So I love those suggestions.
Yeah, we've even gone so far, Megan, in at Simplicity Parenting, of commissioning a rhythm clock to be made. And the rhythm clock is for younger children up to about the age of 7 or so. But it's this beautiful clock. It has no numbers on it. It's a clock just with a series of discs, a big background, a big circular background with a series of discs, beautifully illustrated, with each, like, I think it's about 30 or more discs that you can slot in with these lovely little holders all around. And there's this shooting star arm that you move as the day goes round. And the discs are, you know, wake up time, and then there's breakfast time, and then there's creative play time, and then there's after that, and after that, after that. And children and we've been hearing about this for years now since this clock has been out there, is that children who are problematic, kids who can really be challenging, will just come and stare, because where the shooting star arm is touching, they can see what's coming next. And then they go round the house like the town crier. Right, everyone, it's snack coming next. Everyone, and it settles them down so much to know what's coming next. So Megan, what you're saying about that's that one around rhythm and predictability. And that's another building block of how to help children navigate a day. Yeah.
Yeah, that really helped a lot with my son. My oldest was highly anxious when he was really little. And so having that strong rhythm really was essential.
Mm.
We talked at the beginning about everything that's been going on in the world. Like it's insane. Parents are now at home with kids who never really planned on that. So now that we're trying to balance work and home and all the different needs of a family, and that's putting a lot of strain on parents themselves. And I know you have a whole book on that as well. How can we be that beacon they need to ping off of when you're struggling and you're stretched so thin yourself and you're struggling to maintain your own balance?
Well, one of the things I've noticed is that parents who are parenting gently, simply, and in a balanced way, consciously, we've, to one extent or another, we've almost like built the family ark before the social flood. That's how I think of it. And so if we know we're struggling, parents who are parenting consciously, gently, simply. But if we had not been doing this, it would have been so much worse. It would have been so much more of a struggle, because when you balance in a simple way, basically that means there's time for connection, there's time for human connection, there's time, children are bonded, attached, there's time, you've created spaces, large amounts of spaces for you to be with the children. And that gets them through enormously. One of the things that I think when we talk about these pathways and pillars of simplicity, it occurs to me that, like, when the world is chaotic out there, for example, when there's just a lot of chaos outside, if we declutter and have a very simple, peaceful bedroom and a very simple, peaceful lounge room, and everything is in its place as much as possible, as we can within reason, it gives a feeling of not just peacefulness, but a feeling of sense of place, that things have their place. And that is, we can talk to children all we like about safety and all that kind of thing, but children are little sense beings. And when they look at a home that is being decluttered, there's a feeling of orderliness in a disorderly world. So simplifying and decluttering isn't just a random thing. It really does speak to children, and it helps them, their nervous systems calm when there's around them clearly an organized environment. The other thing about simplifying is that and I've noticed this a lot now that schools in the Northern Hemisphere have gone back. In the Southern Hemisphere, schools have been back for a wee while. But schools there's a new rhythm to get back into, because many of our children have been off school for 6 months or more, give or take. But schools, so that's a new rhythm to get used to, but schools are opening and then closing. Someone will get sick. My wife is a teacher in a school, and someone recently had a cough, just a simple cough in the kindergarten, but responsibly and also by law, the whole kindergarten, I think 2 or 3 groups had to close within a couple of hours, parents all had to be there because a child, was showing some symptoms. Now they're all home. Now they're all back. And then other schools have opened and closed twice now, and it's not just the early weeks of this happening. Now, when that's going on, when you have that kind of unpredictability in school and kindergarten, daycare, and such, it means that our rhythms within our own home are the pillar. That is so crucial, that we can say to a child, yes, when we go to school, let's say they're in elementary, second, third, fourth grade, it's true. When you're going to school, just to be safe and to be responsible, the people at school, if someone gets sick, we'll be staying at home until we know all is well. And at home, we know what we're doing. We know when we wake up, we do this, then we do that, then we do this. And again, it's not magic, but what it does is it prevents the child's becoming anxious, their nervous system activating. And so rhythm and predictability at home is kind of all we can do, because in some ways, that we've all got our circle. We've all got our circle of concern, our circle of nervousness. It's a large circle. It's about the size of a beach ball. It's big, it's so to speak. But our circle of influence, of what we can control and influence, is much smaller. It's the size of a grapefruit, But so we can't control whether the school opens or closes. That's got to do with the law of the, what we're given by the province or state. But what we can control and strongly influence is what we do at home. Likewise with the news, how much do we expose not only our children to the news, which is very, very sensational at the moment, and very troubling, but also how much do we expose ourselves to the news? For me personally, I listen to the news on the radio once in the morning a day, and it's an encapsulated news. And I just want to check, that nothing really dramatic in the world has happened, and that's it. That is totally it for the day. Because every time we revisit the news, even if it's got the radio on and half hour later there's another news cycle, our own nervous system as parents becomes activated, particularly as parents, because our job is to provide and protect for our kids. And then we hear this news, which is very sensational, and very focused, as we know, on big events, sensational stuff. Our nervous systems become activated. Now, finally, the bigger answer to this question about what can we do for ourselves, that I thought a lot about that, because, and that's the reason I wrote this book, Being at Your Best When Your Kids Are at Their Worst, because that is the central theme of that book. How can we stay centered when our kids are uncentered? I don't mean calm, that's like a gold medal standard. I mean just centered, like how can we be, and how can we be able to be in that space? That's why I really appreciate the question, because it's like we are the emotional climate control in our homes. And I remember a very wonderful, wise man, Joseph Chilton Pearce, said once when I was listening to him speak, he said he is a biologist, a psychologist, and he said, if you take a cell from a heart, as you can do, and you put it on a disk, on a solution, and you look at it under a powerful microscope, you can see it actually beating. You can see the heart continues to beat, but then it will fibrillate and will expire. If when the heart is fibrillating, you take a cell from another heart that is and place it near the expiring heart, the fibrillating heart, the two will start beating now in unison together. and last much, much longer than they otherwise would have individually. Now, that metaphor I thought was always a wonderful one for when our kids are emotionally fibrillating. We need to, as much as possible, keep that pulse of our own emotional self-regulation so that we can co-regulate with our children.
That is fantastic. It sounds like basically everything that we're trying to do for our children in simplifying and having that strong rhythm really would affect, is beneficial to the parents too. I mean, I know for myself, when my house is a mess, that the visual clutter just sends me crazy and lowers my own, makes me anxious too. So I can see that all of this simplicity would really help the parents too.
One of the things, Megan, that really helps us, I feel, when our kids are coming at us, and they're anxious and they're disoriented, and so they're wanting to orient. I think I mentioned before about pinging, just to look at a child and know that they're disoriented, and to know that they're echolocating, to know they're trying it on, with their behavior. If we know that and can really remember that they're disoriented and not disobedient, if we can just remember this and we look at a child and we inwardly think, I wonder why you're so disoriented. Don't say that out loud, they'll think you're weird. But just inwardly be thinking, I wonder what's going on for you. In that moment, we've done something pretty amazing, because you can't ask a question like that of a child and wonder without you avoid taking it personally. You can't wonder like that. I recorded a podcast on the wonder of wondering. We have the Simplicity Parenting podcast, and I think it's going out soon, but or might have already been out this week. But the wonder of wondering is because when we wonder, I wonder what's going on for you, you little bugger, kind of thing. I mean, they're being horrible and disruptive and challenging and just, yucky. But when you wonder, you don't take it personally. And secondly, all the little micro aspects of your face, your eyes, your mouth, and your shoulders, it can't help but change. It softens just a little bit. Your eyes, the gaze shifts a little bit. Now, when a child's not doing well, they're not listening to our words, not so much. They're scanning our face. I don't know if you've had this, Megan, but a child will do something really quite challenging and then look right at you. Right? Have you had that?
Of course.
Yeah. And so, and what they're doing, it looks ever so challenging, doesn't it? But what they're actually doing is pinging, and they're trying to read. Now, if we can just ask ourselves, I wonder what's going on for you. I wonder, just that. Our eyes soften. You can't wonder without dropping the whole presentation of being a shouty, scary person, right? And then a child senses safety. And the bit I love about this is we don't even have to know the answer. Like, if we can wonder what's going on, coming up with an answer is secondary. It's okay if we some great, the heavens open and we get some great message, but it doesn't actually matter. What matters most is the fact that we're not buying into the escalation. We understand that our child is disoriented, and crucially, we're not taking it personally. And so that partly relates to the previous question as well about emotional self-regulation. Yeah.
I love the analogies that you give, because they're just very practical, and I appreciate so much your time with us today. I know that you have the books, you have a podcast yourself, as well as your Simplicity Parenting community, which is incredible. So I'm going to make sure that we have links to all of that in the show notes. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us before we close?
Oh no, it's just lovely to be invited to speak to you, Megan. It's a real treat, and you know, to be able to do what I can for your community and the community around you in that way. So if anyone wants to follow up with more information like this, you know, do feel free to go right to our website, where there's so much information there, and very clearly and cleanly. It'd be ironic if it was overwhelming, you know, one of those websites that kind of come at you. And if anyone wants to, of course, take a deeper dive, you know, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm perfectly happy to hear from parents with their own individual challenges at home as well, because our kids are so individual. Even the kids within our family are individual. So a real pleasure to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a joyful day.